Welcome back to CoinX Mint. Before you overlook that old penny sitting in a drawer, coin jar, or forgotten collection, take a closer look, because some Lincoln Wheat Pennies have become extraordinary treasures in the world of coin collecting. These historic 1-cent coins may appear simple, but rare dates, unusual minting characteristics, and exceptional examples have made certain pennies highly desirable among collectors. Today, we're revealing the top 3 ultra-rare Lincoln Wheat Pennies that have captured the attention of collectors and commanded remarkable prices in the marketplace. Each coin has a fascinating story behind it, and as we move toward the number 1 spot, you'll discover why some examples stand far above ordinary wheat pennies in rarity and collector demand. So, if you have old pennies tucked away at home, now is the perfect time to pay attention. You never know what fascinating piece of numismatic history could be hiding in plain sight. Make sure you stay with us until the end to discover the most remarkable penny on today's list. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to CoinX Mint and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest rare coin discoveries, valuable collectibles, and hidden treasure stories. Now, let's get started. First up. Stop right there, collectors, because if you have a 1940 Lincoln Wheat Penny sitting inside an old collection, a coin jar, a family box, or even among a group of ordinary pennies, you may be looking at a fascinating piece of American history. Today we are taking a close look at the 1940 Lincoln Wheat Penny with no mint mark, the Philadelphia issue, and why collectors continue to pay attention to well-preserved examples. This is not simply an old 1-cent coin. It is a piece of the classic wheat cent era, a coin connected to an important period in American history, and a design that remained on United States cents for nearly half a century. The key is understanding exactly what you have, recognizing its condition, and knowing why certain high-grade examples can bring dramatically higher prices than ordinary circulated pieces. The 1940 Lincoln Wheat Penny was produced during a fascinating chapter in American history. It was struck just before the United States entered World War II, when the Lincoln Wheat Cent was already a familiar part of everyday American commerce. The coin carries Victor David Brenner's famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, with "Liberty, in God we trust," and the date 1940 surrounding the design. On the reverse are the 2 wheat ears that gave the series its popular name, together with 1 cent, United States of America, and EPLUBUSUNUM. For collectors, every one of these details contributes to the historical character of the coin. One of the first things you should notice about this particular coin is the absence of a mint mark. That does not mean the coin was forgotten or incorrectly struck. Instead, it tells us that this 1940 Lincoln Wheat Penny was produced at the Philadelphia Mint, which traditionally did not place a mint mark on its cents. The 1940 Philadelphia issue had a reported mintage of 586,810,000 pieces, making it the largest of the 3 regular 1940 Lincoln cent issues. The Denver issue carried a D mint mark, while San Francisco examples carried an S, so when you see 1940 with no letter beneath the date, you are looking at the Philadelphia variety. The physical specifications of the 1940 Philadelphia Lincoln Wheat Penny also make it easy to identify. It is a bronze composite cent measuring approximately 19 millimeters across and weighing about 3.11 grams. Its composition is listed as approximately 95% copper, with the remaining portion made up of tin and zinc. These specifications are part of what makes the coin unmistakably part of the classic pre-war Lincoln Wheat Cent series. When you combine the familiar Lincoln portrait, the wheat reverse, the 1940 date, and the absence of a mint mark, you have a very recognizable and historically important American cent. Now comes the part that makes collectors especially interested: condition. A 1940 Lincoln Wheat Penny can exist in many different grades, from heavily circulated examples showing substantial wear to extremely attractive coins retaining much of their original mint appearance. A very fine coin is especially interesting because the major design elements remain clearly visible while the coin still shows the evidence of its journey through circulation. The sharper the details, the cleaner the surfaces, and the more attractive the overall appearance, the more attention the coin can receive from collectors searching for strong examples of the date. The color of a Lincoln cent is another important consideration, especially when a coin moves into uncirculated grades. Collectors commonly describe copper coins as brown, red-brown, or red depending on how much original red coloration remains. A circulated 1940 penny will naturally have developed its own appearance through decades of handling and exposure, but an especially attractive example with pleasing color and strong details can stand out dramatically when placed beside ordinary worn examples. For collectors, visual appeal is a major part of the story, and a coin that immediately catches the eye can become much more desirable within a collection. The phrase "very fine" is important because it represents a meaningful point on the grading scale. A very fine coin generally retains substantial design detail even though circulation has produced visible wear. On a wheat cent, collectors pay close attention to Lincoln's hair, facial features, coat details, the wheat ears on the reverse, and the lettering. A strong, very fine example can present a remarkably satisfying balance between historical character and preserved detail. It is exactly the type of coin that can make someone stop and examine a group of old pennies more carefully, but here is where the market becomes especially interesting. The 1940 no-mint mark cent is not considered rare simply because it is from 1940. Its Philadelphia mintage was enormous, with more than 586 million pieces produced. What creates the strongest value opportunities is the combination of date, preservation, color, strike, surface quality, certification, and exceptionally high grade. In other words, the exciting story is not that every 1940 no-mint mark penny is a fortune, but that exceptional survivors can separate themselves dramatically from ordinary examples. Current price information demonstrates just how wide that range can become. A published value guide lists a typical 1940 Philadelphia wheat cent around 49 cents in very fine condition and around 74 cents in extremely fine, while higher uncirculated grades can move into several dollars or considerably more depending on grade and appearance. Another current market database lists approximately $13 for VF examples, around $27.52 for AU examples, and substantially higher figures for top certified grades. These differences demonstrate why professional grading, accurate attribution, and actual completed sales are so important when discussing coin values. The real excitement appears when we move toward the finest known or nearly finest examples. PCGS auction records show a 1940 Lincoln Wheat cent graded MS-67 selling for $167 in an earlier auction, while an MS-68 example sold for an astonishing $8,625 at a 2009 Bowers and Mariner auction. The MS-68 coin was listed with a PCGS price guide value of $9,000 on the referenced record. This is an excellent illustration of how dramatically exceptional preservation can change the market story for an otherwise common date. That $8,625 result is particularly important for collectors because it shows the difference between an ordinary 1940 cent and an extraordinary one. A common circulated coin may be worth only a modest amount, while an elite, professionally graded example with exceptional preservation can command thousands of dollars. This is why serious collectors never judge an old penny simply by its age. They examine the grade, surfaces, color, strike, originality, and overall eye appeal. The coin's date is only the beginning of the story. There is another fascinating category connected with the 1940 issue: proofs. Proof Lincoln cents were specially produced for collectors rather than ordinary circulation, and the 1940 proof mintage was only 15,872 pieces. A proof example can have a very different appearance, including specially prepared surfaces and sharper visual contrast. PCGS records show a 1940 proof graded PR65 selling for $1,380 at a Bowers and Mariner auction in 2004, with a referenced PCGS price guide value of $2,750. This demonstrates that the 1940 date can become much more valuable when combined with a genuinely scarce proof format and high grade. For the coin we are focusing on today, however, the important identification remains 1940 with no mint mark. Look directly below the date. If there is no D and no S, you have the Philadelphia issue. Do not mistake the absence of a mint mark for an error. On Philadelphia Lincoln cents of this era, no mint mark was exactly what collectors should expect. This simple observation can prevent a major identification mistake and helps you immediately separate the Philadelphia issue from the Denver and San Francisco varieties. Collectors should also pay close attention to the overall originality of the coin. Original surfaces are extremely important in the numismatic market. A coin with attractive natural color, clear details, and undisturbed surfaces can be much more appealing than an artificially altered piece. The goal is not simply to make an old penny look shiny. The goal is to preserve the authentic character that the coin has developed over decades. For that reason, collectors should treat old wheat cents carefully and avoid unnecessary cleaning or polishing. If you find a 1940 no mint mark wheat penny in very fine condition, take a moment to inspect it under good lighting. Look at Lincoln's portrait, the date, the lettering, the wheat stalks, and the rim. Check whether the major details remain strong and whether the surfaces have an attractive appearance. A magnifying glass can help you inspect the coin without handling it excessively. Even when the coin is not a spectacular rarity, identifying and preserving a historic wheat cent can be a rewarding part of collecting. The auction market provides another reason to study condition carefully. Collectors do not simply buy old coins because they are old. They compete for coins that offer something special: superior grade, attractive color, strong strike, exceptional surfaces, desirable varieties, proof status, or outstanding eye appeal. That competition can create dramatic price differences between coins sharing the exact same date and mint. The 1940 cent is a perfect example of this phenomenon, with ordinary examples and elite certified pieces occupying completely different levels of the market. If your coin has a particularly attractive red appearance and appears to have been preserved without significant circulation, that is worth investigating further. Red color designations are especially significant for copper coins because retaining original mint red can be difficult after many decades. A high-grade red example can therefore attract collectors who are building registry-quality sets or seeking exceptional representatives of the Lincoln Wheat Cent series. PCGS auction records for a 1940 MS66 red example show a $25.99 sale, while the referenced PCGS price guide value was $36 at that time. At the same time, remember that a coin's value should always be based on its actual characteristics rather than an exciting headline alone. The 1940 Philadelphia cent is a fascinating collectible, but its enormous original mintage means the ordinary circulated version is not a millionaire coin. The serious value opportunity lies in exceptional condition, extraordinary certification, rare presentation, such as proof, or a significant variety or error that can be authenticated. That distinction actually makes the hobby more exciting because it gives collectors a reason to inspect every detail rather than simply searching for a particular year. One of the best things about collecting wheat pennies is that these coins can connect everyday history with the world of professional numismatics. The 1940 penny once represented 1 cent of purchasing power. Today, more than 8 decades later, an exceptional survivor can be worth dramatically more because collectors value its preservation and rarity at the highest grades. The journey from pocket change to collectible is what makes these coins so fascinating. Imagine finding a 1940 Lincoln Wheat penny in an old family collection and discovering that it has unusually sharp details, beautiful original color, and exceptional surfaces. At first glance, it may look like another old penny. But after careful examination and professional evaluation, it could prove to be a much more important example. This is why experienced collectors take their time. They do not rush past old coins simply because the date appears common. They search for quality hiding inside familiar dates. For collectors considering professional certification, the most promising candidates are coins that appear unusually well preserved for their age. A certified grade can provide an independent assessment and can make comparison with auction records much easier. However, certification should be considered carefully, especially for modest value circulated examples. The more exceptional the coin appears, the more useful professional authentication and grading can become when determining its place in the collector market. storage is equally important. If you discover a promising wheat penny, protect it from unnecessary handling and harsh environments. Hold the coin by its edges rather than repeatedly touching the surfaces, and keep it in an appropriate coin holder or archival storage system. The objective is simple: preserve whatever originality and eye appeal the coin already possesses. A well-preserved coin gives future collectors the opportunity to appreciate exactly what makes it special. The 1940 date also deserves attention because it sits immediately before the dramatic wartime transformation of the Lincoln cent. In 1943, the United States famously shifted the cent to zinc-coated steel as part of wartime material conservation, creating one of the most recognizable varieties in American coin collecting. The 1940 cent, therefore, represents the traditional bronze wheat penny design shortly before that major change. When you compare the 1940 Philadelphia cent with the Denver and San Francisco issues, the no mint mark version becomes even easier to understand. Philadelphia produced the overwhelming majority of 1940 business strike cents, while Denver produced 81,390,000 and San Francisco produced 112,940,000. The absence of a mint mark is therefore a normal characteristic of the Philadelphia coin, but condition can still create major differences in desirability and value. For anyone watching this video with a collection of old pennies nearby, now is the perfect moment to take a closer look. Search for the date 1940, then check the area beneath the date for the absence of a mint mark. Once you identify a Philadelphia example, examine its condition carefully. Is Lincoln's portrait sharply defined? Are the wheat ears still detailed? Does the coin have attractive color? Are the surfaces clean and original looking? Is there unusual sharpness compared with other 1940 cents? These observations can help you determine whether your coin deserves closer professional attention. And remember, the phrase, "could make you a millionaire," should be treated as the excitement of the hunt rather than a promise that every 1940 penny is worth a fortune. The documented market shows that ordinary examples generally bring modest prices, while exceptional coins can reach dramatically higher levels. The $8,625 auction result for an MS-68 1940 Lincoln cent is proof that top-quality examples can become serious collectibles. The real lesson is that rarity at the highest grades can be far more important than the number of coins originally produced. The beauty of coin collecting is that you never know when an ordinary-looking piece will deserve a second look. A 1940 Lincoln Wheat penny without a mint mark may have passed through countless hands before eventually reaching a collector's album. It carries the design of Victor David Brenner, the history of pre-war America, the classic wheat reverse, and the unmistakable character of an old bronze cent. Even when its monetary value is modest, its historical and collectible appeal can be significant. So before you spend, discard, or overlook an old 1940 wheat penny, give it the attention it deserves. Check the date, confirm that there is no mint mark, examine the condition, study the color, and look carefully for exceptional preservation. If the coin appears unusually strong, especially with high-grade characteristics, consider having it evaluated by a reputable professional. The difference between an ordinary circulated cent and a spectacular certified example can be enormous, and documented auction history shows just how far the best survivors can rise. The 1940 Lincoln Wheat penny is therefore a perfect reminder that value in coin collecting is about much more than age. It is about rarity, preservation, originality, condition, demand, and the story behind the piece. A coin produced in huge numbers can still become highly desirable when only a small number survive at the very highest levels. That is exactly why collectors continue searching through old collections, inherited coin boxes, rolls, albums, and forgotten jars. And now you know exactly what makes the 1940 Lincoln Wheat penny without a mint mark so interesting. It is a Philadelphia minted classic wheat cent, made from bronze, carrying Abraham Lincoln's famous portrait and the iconic wheat reverse. Its ordinary circulated value can be modest, but exceptional examples can move into much higher price territory, with auction records demonstrating that elite preservation can create extraordinary results. So keep your eyes open, inspect those old pennies carefully, and remember that the next coin you examine might be more interesting than it first appears. The treasure hunt is still alive, and sometimes the smallest coin can tell the biggest story. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the 1940 Lincoln Wheat Penny, stay connected with the channel because we are continuing to uncover the fascinating world of rare coins, valuable varieties, historic mintages, remarkable auction results, and the hidden details collectors look for every day. Take a second look at your old wheat pennies, learn their dates and mint marks, protect the best examples, and keep searching with patience. Because in coin collecting, knowledge is what turns an ordinary-looking piece of pocket change into a discovery worth remembering. Next up, the 1934 Lincoln Wheat Penny without a mint mark. If you have a 1934 wheat penny in very fine condition, do not rush past it simply because it looks like an ordinary old cent. This coin belongs to one of the most recognizable series in American numismatics, and its age, classic design, Philadelphia origin, condition, and potential for exceptional high-grade examples make it a fascinating coin to examine. The big question is simple. Could your 1934 no-mint mark Lincoln Wheat Penny be worth significantly more than 1 cent? Today we are going to explore its history, unique features, rarity, condition, collector demand, current dollar values, and the details that can make one example stand out from another. The story of the 1934 Lincoln Wheat Penny begins during an important period in American history. By 1934, the Lincoln cent had already been in production for more than 2 decades, carrying the famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner. The wheat cent design had become an iconic part of American coinage, with 2 wheat ears appearing on the reverse and giving the series its popular name. Holding a 1934 penny today means holding a small piece of that era, a coin that traveled through American commerce during a period when the country was recovering from the Great Depression and everyday money had a very different purchasing power. The 1934 Philadelphia Lincoln Wheat Penny has a reported mintage of 219,080,000 pieces. That is a substantial production figure, but the important point for collectors is that mintage alone does not determine the final value of an individual coin. Millions of coins can be produced, yet beautifully preserved examples can become much more desirable decades later. The 1934 issue was struck at Philadelphia, which is why a normal Philadelphia example carries no mint mark. That absence of a letter is not automatically an error. Instead, it is the expected identifying feature of a Philadelphia minted Lincoln cent from this period. Take a close look directly beneath the date on your coin. On a genuine 1934 Philadelphia Lincoln Wheat Penny, you will not find a D or S mint mark. A D would indicate Denver, while an S would indicate San Francisco. The no mint mark version is therefore the Philadelphia issue. This is one of the first details every collector should learn because identifying the mint correctly is the foundation for understanding the coin. Once you have confirmed the 1934 date and the absence of a mint mark, you can move on to the details that really separate ordinary examples from coins that deserve much closer attention. The design itself is another reason this coin remains so popular. On the obverse, Abraham Lincoln faces right, surrounded by the inscriptions Liberty and In God We Trust, with the date 1934 positioned prominently below. Turn the coin over and you see the famous wheat reverse, with 2 wheat stalks framing the central inscriptions 1 cent and United States of America, along with EPLUIBUSUNUM. The combination of Lincoln's portrait and the wheat reverse makes this coin instantly recognizable, and that classic appearance continues to attract collectors who enjoy building complete wheat cent date sets. The coin is made from the traditional bronze composition used for Lincoln cents of the era, approximately 95% copper, with the balance consisting of tin and zinc. It measures about 19 millimeters in diameter and weighs approximately 3.11 grams. These specifications help confirm that the coin belongs to the correct period and type. When you combine the bronze composition, 1934 date, Lincoln portrait, wheat reverse, and Philadelphia no mint mark attribution, you have a textbook example of the classic Lincoln wheat cent. Now let us talk about condition, because this is where the conversation becomes much more exciting. The 1934 penny in very fine condition has experienced circulation, but it can still retain a considerable amount of its original design detail. Collectors will look carefully at Lincoln's hair, facial features, coat details, the lettering, the wheat stalks, and the overall sharpness of the coin. A strong, very fine example can be an attractive addition to a wheat cent collection because it offers a combination of age, recognizable details, and historical character. Color also deserves attention when examining an old copper coin. Collectors commonly describe Lincoln cents as brown, red-brown, or red, depending on their appearance and remaining original coloration. A circulated coin will naturally show changes caused by decades of handling and environmental exposure, while coins that have retained more original mint color can become especially interesting at higher grades. If your 1934 cent has pleasing natural color together with strong details and attractive surfaces, it is worth giving the coin a careful examination rather than judging it only by its date. The market values published for the 1934 Philadelphia Wheat Penny show an important range. USA Coin Books, February 2026, update lists typical values around 36 cents for very fine, $1.24 for extremely fine, $4.96 for about uncirculated, and $8.64 for MS60, with MS63 listed around $10. These are guide estimates rather than guaranteed selling prices, and actual transactions can vary according to grade, color, certification, eye appeal, and market conditions. But this is exactly where collectors need to understand the difference between a normal example and a truly exceptional example. Professional auction records show that the 1934 Philadelphia issue can reach far higher levels in elite mint state grades. PCGS's auction price database lists the 1934 MS category with a recorded auction result of $12,650, demonstrating that the very best examples can occupy a completely different part of the market from circulated coins. This is why condition is such an important factor when examining an old wheat penny. One documented example makes the point even clearer. PCGS records a 1934 Lincoln cent graded MS65 red that sold for $325 in a David Lawrence Rare Coins internet auction in 2013. Another MS65 red example sold for $28 in a 2024 eBay auction, illustrating how much actual selling prices can differ depending on the specific coin and circumstances of the sale. The PCGS price guide value shown for the reference 2024 example was $40. These records demonstrate that collectors should look at real market evidence and the exact grade rather than relying on a single advertised price. There is also an especially interesting variety connected with the 1934 Philadelphia cent, the double-die obverse. PCGS identifies a 1934 1C DDO FS 101 variety from Philadelphia, with examples known in brown, red-brown, and red designations. A genuine double-die variety can be much more interesting to specialists than a normal example, which is why examining the lettering and design details carefully can be worthwhile. Authentication is essential when a suspected variety appears significant because not every unusual-looking mark is a true double die. This is where your 1934 penny becomes especially interesting to investigate. Do not look only at the date. Examine the entire coin. Study Lincoln's portrait, the lettering, the wheat ears, the rim, and the surfaces. Look for unusual doubling, unusually sharp detail, attractive color, and signs of exceptional preservation. A coin that appears dramatically better preserved than the other wheat pennies around it deserves additional attention, particularly if it appears to have remained close to its original condition. The word rare also deserves a little explanation. The 1934 Philadelphia penny is not rare simply because it is an old coin. More than 219 million were produced. Its real collecting excitement comes from the possibility of finding an unusually well-preserved example, a desirable color designation, a recognized variety, or another characteristic that makes an individual coin stand apart. This is a much more meaningful way to understand rarity. Not every old coin is rare, but exceptional examples can become scarce at the highest levels of preservation. That is why the auction market is so fascinating. Collectors compete for coins that complete sets, improve existing collections, or represent outstanding examples of a particular date. When a coin combines a popular series, an attractive appearance, strong preservation, and a high certified grade, demand can become much stronger than it would be for an ordinary circulated piece. The 1934 Lincoln cent is a perfect example of how the same date can occupy very different price levels depending on condition and quality. If you have a 1934 no-mint mark penny in very fine condition, the most important thing is to preserve it exactly as you found it. Avoid polishing, rubbing, or attempting to make the surface brighter. Original surfaces are highly important to collectors, and cleaning can permanently change the appearance of a coin. Instead, handle it carefully by the edges and place it in suitable protective storage. A coin that has survived for more than 90 years deserves to be treated as a historical object as well as a collectible. For collectors searching through old jars, inherited collections, albums, and boxes of wheat cents, the 1934 date is one worth recognizing immediately. Once you know that the absence of a mint mark identifies Philadelphia, you can quickly separate the 1934 Philadelphia issue from the 1934 Denver coin. The Denver issue had a much smaller mintage of 28,446,000, making the mint distinction particularly important when comparing the different 1934 issues. And here is the exciting part. A coin does not have to be a famous ultra-low mintage date to become an important collectible. Sometimes the greatest opportunities come from quality. A common date in an extraordinary grade can attract serious attention because collectors want the best examples available. That is why you should never automatically dismiss a 1934 Lincoln Wheat Penny simply because you have seen other 1934 cents before. Compare the details, compare the surfaces, and compare the overall preservation. The idea that a coin could make you a millionaire is exciting for any collector, but the responsible way to approach that possibility is to focus on discovery rather than expecting every 1934 penny to be worth a fortune. Current published values show that typical very fine examples are generally modestly priced, while elite certified examples can reach much higher levels. The documented $12,650 auction result for a 1934 MS example demonstrates the dramatic premium that exceptional quality can bring. So if you are holding a 1934 Lincoln Wheat Penny without a mint mark right now, do not put it aside without looking closely. Confirm the date, check the mint mark area, examine the color, study the condition, and inspect the details under good lighting. If the coin appears unusually sharp, attractive, or potentially varieties bearing, consider having it examined by a reputable coin professional or grading service. A careful examination can reveal information that the naked eye might miss. The 1934 Lincoln Wheat Penny is ultimately more than a 1-cent piece. It is a surviving piece of American history, a product of the Philadelphia Mint, a classic example of Victor David Brenner's Lincoln design, and a coin that demonstrates how dramatically condition can influence collector demand. With a mintage of 219,080,000, the ordinary issue is not a rarity simply because of its production year, but exceptional examples, high-grade pieces, and recognized varieties can command substantially greater interest and value. So the next time you see a 1934 Lincoln Wheat Penny without a mint mark, remember what you are actually holding. You are holding a Philadelphia minted wheat cent from an important period in American history, a coin that has survived for more than 9 decades and may still have details worth discovering. Examine it carefully, protect its surfaces, learn how grading works, compare it with documented market results, and never underestimate the power of exceptional condition. The most exciting part of coin collecting is the search itself, because the next remarkable wheat penny could be sitting quietly in a collection waiting for someone to recognize what makes it special. Next up, the 1951 Lincoln Wheat Penny with the D mint mark, the Denver issue, in very fine condition. At first glance, it may look like another old 1-cent coin, but once you understand its history, design, mint mark, condition, varieties, and the way exceptional examples perform in the collector market, this little bronze coin becomes much more interesting. The 1951 D Lincoln Wheat Penny belongs to one of America's most famous coin series, and some high-grade examples have reached thousands of dollars at auction. So if you have one in an old collection, coin album, inherited group, or forgotten jar, this is exactly the kind of coin that deserves a closer inspection. The history behind the 1951 Wheat penny takes us back to an important period in American life. The Lincoln Wheat cent had already been circulating for more than 40 years by 1951, making Abraham Lincoln's portrait one of the most familiar images on American money. The design was created by Victor David Brenner, and the reverse featured the two wheat ears that gave the coin its famous nickname. By the early 1950s, millions of these cents were moving through everyday commerce, passing from one person to another while quietly recording a piece of American history. The 1951 D issue was produced at the Denver Mint, and the D located beneath the date is the feature that identifies its origin. According to published Mint information, Denver struck 625,355,000 Lincoln Wheat cents in 1951. That enormous production figure makes the 1951 D a widely recognized issue, but it does not tell the entire story. Collectors know that the number originally produced is only one part of a coin's value equation. Condition, color, surface quality, varieties, certification, and exceptional preservation can create enormous differences between individual coins carrying exactly the same date and mint mark. Now take a close look at that famous D mint mark. It should appear beneath the date on the obverse, identifying Denver as the manufacturing facility. This small letter can completely change the identification of a wheat penny because collectors separate Lincoln cents by date and mint. The 1951 D is therefore not simply a 1951 Lincoln cent. It is a specific Denver issue with its own production history and collecting characteristics. If your coin clearly shows 1951 and a D underneath the date, you have identified one of the principal regular issues from that year. The design is another reason this coin remains so popular. On the front, Abraham Lincoln faces right, with liberty, in God we trust, and the 1951 date completing the obverse. Turn the coin over, and the classic wheat reverse immediately appears, with two wheat ears surrounding 1 cent and United States of America, while EPLURBUSUNUM sits above. This design became one of the most recognizable in American coinage, and collectors continue to build complete wheat cent collections because the series offers decades of history, numerous mint combinations, varieties, and different levels of rarity. The physical specifications also help tell us exactly what we are looking at. The 1951 D Lincoln Wheat cent is a bronze composite coin composed of approximately 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. It measures approximately 19 millimeters in diameter and weighs about 3.11 grams. Its plain edge and classic bronze appearance place it firmly within the traditional Lincoln Wheat cent issues produced before the later changes to American 1-cent coinage. Now let's talk about the condition you have described. Very fine. This is an exciting grade level because a very fine Lincoln cent still retains substantial design detail while showing the evidence of circulation. On the 1951 D penny, collectors will carefully examine Lincoln's hair, cheek, jaw, coat details, lettering, date, and the wheat stalks on the reverse. The clearer these features remain, the stronger the overall presentation can be. A well-preserved, very fine example can make a wonderful addition to a collection because it combines genuine age with attractive surviving detail. Color is also an important part of the conversation when dealing with copper Lincoln cents. Collectors generally describe copper coins using designations such as brown, and red, depending on the amount of original color that remains. A coin that has spent decades in circulation can develop a different natural appearance from a coin that remained protected almost from the day it was struck. When a 1951 D cent displays pleasing color, strong details, and attractive surfaces together, it becomes much more visually interesting to collectors. But here is where the story becomes especially exciting. The 1951 D Lincoln cent has a major difference between ordinary circulated examples and elite certified pieces. Current USA coin book data, updated in February 2026, lists the 1951 D at about 14 cents in very fine, 43 cents in extremely fine, 74 cents in about uncirculated, $2.50 in MS60, and higher values depending on grade. These are guide estimates rather than guaranteed selling prices, and actual market results can vary considerably based on the exact coin, grade, color, certification, and buyer demand. That is where the phrase "big money" becomes especially interesting. The ordinary very fine 1951D is not a millionaire coin, but exceptional examples can enter a completely different market. PCGS reports an auction record of $8,100 for a 1951D Lincoln Cent graded MS68 RD, sold by Heritage Auctions on January 19, 2025. That result demonstrates how dramatically the market can change when a common date coin reaches an extraordinary level of preservation and receives an elite certified grade. Imagine placing an ordinary circulated 1951D penny beside an elite MS68 red example. They share the same year, the same mint, the same basic design, and the same 1-cent denomination, yet the difference in market performance can be enormous. This is one of the most fascinating lessons in coin collecting. Collectors are not simply paying for the date printed on the coin. They are paying for quality, preservation, originality, eye appeal, scarcity at the highest grades, and the opportunity to own an exceptional representative of the issue. The color designation becomes particularly important as coins move into high mint state grades. A red example that has retained substantial original coloration can be especially attractive to collectors. PCGS catalogs separate 1951D examples into brown, and red categories, allowing collectors to distinguish coins not only by numerical grade, but also by their copper color designation. This gives the 1951D series another layer of collecting interest and makes exceptional red pieces particularly exciting to study. There is also much more to explore than the standard 1951D issue. PCGS identifies several varieties associated with the 1951D Lincoln Cent, including double-die obverse varieties, over-mintmark varieties, and repunched mintmark varieties. These varieties can add another dimension to the collecting story because specialists actively search for recognized die characteristics. If you believe your coin shows unusual doubling or an unusual mintmark feature, careful examination and professional authentication are important before assigning a premium value. One especially interesting category is the 1951D over-mintmark variety. PCGS lists multiple recognized 1951D over-mintmark varieties, including examples associated with the FS511 and FS512 designations. Some certified examples have achieved substantial auction results, including a 1951D over-mintmark red example graded MS66 Plus RD that sold for $796 in a 2021 eBay auction recorded by PCGS. That does not mean every 1951D penny has this variety, but it shows why specialists examine mint marks and other details so carefully. The same principle applies to the double die varieties. A genuine double die is created during the die-making process and can produce recognizable doubling on parts of the design. It is very different from random damage, machine doubling, scratches, or marks created after the coin left the mint. This is why collectors should never assume that every unusual-looking feature is automatically a rare error. When something truly unusual appears, compare it with recognized references and consider professional attribution. The rarity story of the 1951D is therefore more sophisticated than simply saying that the coin is rare. More than 625 million were produced, so the standard circulated issue is not scarce merely because it is old. The fascinating scarcity appears at the upper levels of preservation and among recognized varieties. PCGS estimates millions of examples survive in all grades, while its population and rarity information shows a much smaller number at high certified grades. This is the kind of rarity that can create intense competition among advanced collectors. For someone holding a very fine 1951D penny, the best approach is to appreciate the coin while also looking for characteristics that could make it more interesting. Examine the date and mint mark carefully, then study Lincoln's portrait and the wheat reverse. Look for unusually strong details, attractive natural color, clean surfaces, and any legitimate variety characteristics. If the coin appears dramatically better than the typical circulated examples you have seen, it may be worth having a knowledgeable numismatist examine it. One of the most important things you can do is protect the coin. Avoid polishing, rubbing, scraping, or using chemicals to make an old copper cent appear brighter. Original surfaces are valuable to collectors, and cleaning can permanently alter the coin's appearance. Instead, handle it carefully by the edges and place it in appropriate protective storage. The goal is to preserve the coin's authentic condition so that future collectors can appreciate exactly what has survived from 1951. Professional grading can become especially interesting when a coin appears to be in unusually high condition. A certified grade gives buyers and sellers a standardized assessment and can make auction comparisons easier. It is important, however, to consider certification in relation to the coin's potential value and characteristics. For an ordinary circulated example, the cost of professional grading may not make economic sense, while an exceptional-looking specimen or suspected significant variety can be a different situation entirely. The auction market gives collectors a powerful reason to keep searching. The documented $8,100 auction record for an MS-68 RD 1951D proves that this date can reach a remarkable level when exceptional grade and color come together. There are also recorded sales for specialized varieties, showing that knowledgeable collectors can become highly interested when a coin has a recognized feature beyond the standard issue. These results are reminders that the most exciting discoveries are often hidden within the details. So when someone asks whether a 1951D Lincoln Wheat Penny could make someone rich, the most exciting answer is that exceptional coins can certainly be worth dramatically more than their 1 cent face value, but the exact value depends on what is actually present on the coin. A normal very fine example has a modest market value, while an extraordinary certified coin can reach thousands of dollars. The important thing is not to assume a huge price from the date alone. The real treasure hunt is identifying quality, varieties, and preservation. Think about the history contained in this little coin. It was struck in 1951, more than 7 decades ago, at the Denver Mint. It carries Abraham Lincoln's portrait, Victor David Brenner's classic design, the famous wheat reverse, and a D mint mark that tells us where it was made. Millions of Americans could have handled